This episode is sponsored by Arqueo Gato Tours. Want to dig deeper into Mexico's indigenous past and present? Allow Arqueo Gato Tours to customize your Yucatan adventure. Arqueo Gato works hand in hand with local indigenous guides to provide a tour that is entertaining, educational, and beneficial to the local community. For an adventure like no other, check out arqueogato.com. That's ARKEOGATO.com. Or just follow the link in the show notes. Now, on with the show.
You must excuse me. I've grown quite weary.
This hasn't been easy, I know. But you've learned a lesson. A lesson in honesty. Honesty to yourself and honesty to others. That lesson will stand you in good stead all your life.
I think we've all learned a good lesson. I've always heard that honesty is the best policy. Now I'm catching on to why that's so, and why that's so, and why that's so, and why that's so, and why that's so.
Greetings, dear listeners, and welcome to Tales from Atlantis, where we take you on a journey through Chicano, Mexicano, and Mesoamerican history and archaeology, and we help combat the spread of disinformation about these very topics. I am your host, Curly Tlapoyawa. On April 2nd through the 5th, the National Association for Chicana and Chicano Studies, or NACS as it is more commonly known, held its 50th annual conference, this time in my hometown of Albuquerque, New Mexico. Now, for those who are unaware, here's a bit of background and history about the organization, as featured on the official NACS website. And I quote, "The association was first named the National Caucus of Chicano Social Scientists from 1972 to 1973. After the caucus's first meeting, November 17, 1973, at the University of California at Irvine, the members of the steering committee unanimously voted to change the name to the National Association of Chicano Social Scientists, or NACS. In 1976, during the third NACS conference, participants voted to rename the organization to the National Association for Chicano Studies. In 1995, during the national conference in Spokane, Washington, the body unanimously voted to change the name from the National Association for Chicano Studies to the National Association for Chicana and Chicano Studies, or NACCS, N-A-C-C-S, as it is still known today. Its stated mission, once again from the website, is, and I quote, "to advance the interests and needs of the Chicana and Chicano community, to advance research in Chicana and Chicano Studies, to advance the professional interest and needs of Chicanas and Chicanos in the Academy," unquote. Now, I found it interesting that the very first sentence of the NACS mission statement is to advance the interests and needs of the Chicana and Chicano community, because I, like most members of the Chicana and Chicano community here in Albuquerque, had no idea whatsoever that the conference was even happening in my own city. And not only that, but when I did hear about the conference, I looked into the registration process thinking that I might participate, only to find that the cost of registering for the conference was way too expensive for your average community member. Now, with this in mind, I sat down with Dr. Ernesto Todd Mireles of Northern Arizona University and author Scott Russell Duncan of Mays Poppin Press, both of whom were in town to attend the conference. I hope you enjoy this short conversation because we cover quite a bit. And with that, dear listeners, I present to you the episode that I'm calling Tales from NACS Atlantis. All right, so we're here in the zombie shelter of the Tales from Atlantis World Headquarters in Albuquerque, New Mexico, which is also the location of this year's NACSS National Conference. And for those of you out there who do not know, what does NACSS stand for, you guys?
The National Association of Chicano and Chicano Studies.
Nice. And do we know which number of conference this is?
This is actually 50.
Really?
Yeah.
So the Big 5-0.
The Big 5-0.
So since 1974 then.
Yeah.
They've been doing this.
Yeah, they've been doing that since 1974.
and it's always been called NACS. It didn't go through permutations.
It was out for, in the beginning, it was the National Association of Chicano Studies.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then that was made short work of. Yeah. And then it became Chicana Chicano Studies.
Yeah. As it should be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. But I mean, it was a short-lived moment. Yeah. Yeah. I think it was about 10 years. And then they were like, no. Yeah.
So for our listeners out there, I am joined this afternoon by Ernesto Todd Mireles, Dr. Ernesto Todd Mireles.
Shout out.
Yeah, and you're in Flag now,
yep.
Right?
Northern Arizona University. Yeah.
That's a nice campus.
It is. It's very pretty up there. High desert, 4 seasons. It's a HSI. So, I mean, I was at Prescott College for a long time and, all love to Prescott College. But it was not anywhere near close to being an HSI. And I know I got to campus and I was like, damn, there's a lot of brown kids on this.
Nice.
I was like, that's what's up. Yeah.
Very cool. And also joining us is Scott Russell Duncan. How are you doing, man?
Pretty good, yeah.
And you are, so both of you, you're from Oakland, correct?
Well, I'm not from Oakland, but I lived there for a while. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you're both here presenting at the conference?
I was more of hanging out, weird hanger on the periphery monster,
I'm working on my second book manuscript. It's a sequel. It's a theory book sequel to Insurgent Aslan. It's called Flower Battle, a Chicano theory of war. And so I came and I read some of it, how academic conferences are. So I came and read the first section, but I also brought a number of students from NAU. We started a group there that we call Ethnic Studies Scholars, and these kids are all like first, second year, undergrads, and they did it. They worked on these presentations for better part of the year, and came and gave them to a big empty room. And
it's always so frustrating.
I know
when you work your ass off. So these presentations, are they timed? Like, what's the time limit on each presentation?
These ones tonight weren't timed. I can tell you that. Everybody's supposed to get 15 minutes, and which I think you can read probably anywhere between 8, maybe 10 pages in 15 minutes. Yeah. These presentations went over considerably.
Okay.
Yeah. But I mean, good work. And I mean, they're 18, 19.
And they're getting up and they're doing it.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, mad fucking props to them. Right. And so, I think it's, it worked out. I think it worked out well.
Yeah, it went well.
Yeah.
If I'm honest, I'm trying to give my book, Old California Strikes Back, to all these professors to write reviews, or invite me somewhere if you're out there.
Nice. Yeah, it's a great book. So definitely invite Scott.
So now I got to give you the $5?
Yes. Well, that'll be it.
That's at the end.
So the other night we were hanging out and you gave like a cool rundown, like the elevator speech, 2-line version of what ethnic studies is.
Yeah.
And then you told me, but Chicano studies is not that. So I was wondering if you could just take a moment to, tell us the difference between ethnic studies in general and Chicano studies in particular.
Well, one thing that's important to remember or keep in mind, anyways, I don't know about remember. Remember's a little aggressive. But to keep in mind, right, is that Chicano studies predates ethnic studies. Like it's as a discipline, right? Or as a discipline. And that ethnic studies itself really comes out in a large part, not totally, but from the San Francisco State University strike that took place in 1969, I think. Don't quote me on that. But right around that time. And so, but Chicano studies, as a discipline, already existed. People were already doing work. There's, I think, a sort of understandable conflation of these two things. I mean, the primary purpose of ethnic studies has developed really to be investigating power inequities in society, right? Which is very understandable that people would think that it's just about, for lack of a better term, right at this particular moment, people of color, right? Because, I mean, it is within our communities that you see the greatest disparities of, like power, right? So Chicano studies, though, is really about, studying the Mexican American population of the United States. And that has to do with power inequities too. But it's not the main focus, right? And I think that that's probably the biggest difference. Now, that being said, I just want to say for the record, because I know that this is for the record, that I think Chicano Studies has done a terrible job developing theoretically over the last 40 or some years. I just really do. I think that people, glommed on to a couple of books that were good books, right? But were hardly, I think, a suitable basis for the intellectual development of understanding, Mexican Americans and indigenous descendant people, or however you want to say it, right? Chicana, Chicano, Chicanx people in the United States for the past 40 years. So there's definitely, but I'll also say that I think that there's some interesting things that are happening in terms of the way that people are talking. And, I got to give some of the credit to Donald Trump, man. I mean, like, he finally, well, I mean, let's call a orange guy an orange guy, right? Like, this motherfucker said, hey, you know what? I'm going to get you guys, and then he did. Right. And I mean, and now everybody's all like, oh, wait a minute,
mask is off.
Yeah.
Everybody sees it reminds our community of who we actually are in this society.
Well, that's an important thing for them to remember, right?
Exactly.
And so, I heard some interesting conversations this conference emanating from some people that I just don't think, 5 or 6 or 10 years ago, they would have poo-pooed a lot of the things that many of us, myself, yourself, Curly, you, Scott, other people, right, who have a firm connection to the community. We have a real foot in the community and a real foot in the academy, right? I bet they would have poo-pooed, our danger. You know what I'm saying? Our warnings,
ideas,
or they did poo-poo our warnings. Yeah,
for sure. And then for the longest time, people who did that, we were kind of persona non grata, right? We were like these pariahs on the community, where they're like, "Well, why are you guys still pushing that old shit? That's all 1960s shit.
Yeah.
Why are you?" We even get the argument recently that Enrique, our friend, had posted online that people were telling him, like, why are we still using that word, Chicano? We don't even need to use that word. And I'm trying to find this article that just came out, and it's about how there's like this resurgence of the Chicano movement, that all of these people today that are, because of what Trump's doing, the way that they're countering it, the way that they're organizing and mobilizing against it, they're drawing from things that people learned from the Chicano movement. So we're seeing like this renaissance of Chicano activism. And just, Chicanismo in general.
That is true. Productions as well, like Chicano presses, there used to be like 3 or 4. Now there's like 25, 30. It's everywhere. I mean, I also see, unfortunately, a lot of people that are like more like kind of reactionary or assimilationist still kind of co-opting some of the language of resistance because, they basically want, just to go back to not rocking the boat,
Yeah.
We'll be back after a quick break.
In 2018, a New Mexico court confirmed what our communities have long known. The state was violating students' constitutional rights by failing to provide a sufficient and equitable education. The Yazzie-Martinez ruling made it undeniably clear. New Mexico must take bold, systemic action to support low-income students, English learners, Native American students, and students with disabilities. Yet, years later, this mandate still has not been met. The New Mexico Center on Law and Poverty, Transform Education New Mexico, and the Tribal Education Alliance continue to work in partnership with our communities, united in our call for a comprehensive, statewide plan to fulfill the promise of the Yazzie-Martinez ruling. This month, we're excited to invite you to stand with us in another defining moment for education equity in New Mexico. Join us at our community gathering and court watch party. Yazzie-Martinez returns to court. What's next for New Mexico schools? This event will be Tuesday, April 29th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Mountain Time. It'll be held at Warehouse 505, located at 202 Central Avenue Southeast in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Gather in solidarity as the court considers whether to require a remedial action plan led by the Legislative Education Study Committee. We'll watch the hearing together, reflect, and close with a press conference calling for bold action. Breakfast, lunch, and refreshments will be provided at this family-friendly community event. To RSVP, just follow the link in the show notes. Now, back to the show.
No, I think that I see that. I see it in a way that I have not seen it in probably about 20 years, to be real honest with you. And I make it absolutely my business to look for things like that. Mm-hmm. I think that part of it is generational in the sense that, like, if you think about for the three of us coming up in the 90s, right? Like our parents were these boomers that came through the 60s. And, a lot of them were really involved in radical politics. And I think that absolutely laid a foundation, even if it was just like an emotional foundation for the heightened sense of, not heightened sense, but just the heightened activity and the sense of urgency that really came through the Chicano community in the 1990s. But if you think about it, all of these kids are they're like our kids, right? And so there's like this generational thing, and these kids are faced with, and I don't think that it is, I'm stretching to say that they are absolutely faced with an existential threat, right? To like who they are, and, their right to claim, freaking identity politics drive me batty, right?
Every day
but
of my
life. Well, yeah. But then you get to a situation like this and you're just like, okay, see guys, all that stuff you were talking about, that was just like Kool-Aid shit, right? Like this is real. This guy is going to eliminate your identity, right? Yeah. Not maybe, not kind of, not, oh, he made me feel bad. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But like, boom. Yeah.
But it's like the time we have subsumed who we are for so long in survival. There's a lot of stuff we've seen presented, like talking about after the U.S. invasion, like with the Guadalupe Hidalgo Treaty, like Native nations changing the Mexican, Mexicans trying to all of a sudden say, "Hey, I'm Spanish," no matter how like black or native you are, right? Just so you can not get hunted, so you can own something, so you can like testify. Which still, what did it get us? Honestly, lynched and robbed and treated similarly, right?
Got some people a LULAC Cadillac.
Yeah. That's right. Some of them, that's right. Some of them got that LULAC Cadillac.
Yeah.
Some of them did. Yeah, some of them did.
Well, you had brought up the amount of Chicano small press that exists now, and one of the things that I've always been a major proponent of is having our own media outlets, like owning our own communication systems and our own media and producing our own materials, videos, books, podcasts, whatever it is. And you've got a project, a new project, right? That you're getting ready to launch.
I'm working on a press creating with others, including Dr. Ernesto here, Maíz Poppin' Press. But also I would say like a lot of the, I think we also do this writing workshop called Palabras del Pueblo. And that's, goes to this argument in that I think one problem that we've had all these years is that I've been to these workshops for people of color. They want us basically, how do we make it in the settler system? How do we better write to settlers, right? For the East Coast readers, that normally white women, right? Not, I'm married one, so I'm not, whatever. But so it's how much of our literature is actually our literature if we're not writing to our own community, right? If we're really just trying to write about ourselves and not like to ourselves, right? And so I think the goal of this workshop is to first off be very much like accessible and affordable, because a lot of these, despite all their niceties that they say about like social justice and whatnot, they're like $3,000. So I mean,
the workshops.
Yes, the workshops are $3,000, and so that's quite a lot. That's
a
not
lot
our
of
community.
money, man.
That is not our community, right? Even for bougie ones, that's a bit of a thing, And so it has to be accessible. It's on the weekends. It has to be. It's $100, and it could be less if you need it. But it's also more importantly, it's a place to mess up, because we don't ever get to a place to mess up, and a place to be encouraged.
Yeah.
And also, it's a place where we have these presentations on Chicanismo and writing. And I'm not like doing a plug, but I'm saying, for me, the most important thing is to encourage and talk about writing to our community and try to reach it again, because I don't blame our community for not supporting us, because we're not writing to them, And once we start writing to them again, maybe they'll support us again,
Yeah, exactly. I get a lot of pushback. Well, not a lot, but I've gotten some pushback over the length of some of my books, because they're not super thick books. And I'm like,
what's the pushback?
Well, that, wow, man, your books should be like 200, 300, 400 pages. And I'm like, nah, man.
Your books are great, dude.
I'm trying to put stuff out that like somebody could pick up, read, and get through, and then maybe be inspired to pick up something else, not slog through this long ass book. I want to say it was Malcolm X. I've never been sure if it was actually Malcolm X who made this this statement, but make it plain has always been one of my favorite slogans, right? That I live by, because I'll read some stuff where I'm like, who is this written for? Because it's talking about using all of this jargon and all of this high academic speech. And I'm like, I don't know too many of our people that are just going to sit down and slog through that stuff. We're a busy people.
Yeah.
And if something's not going to catch our attention, we're not going to give it the time.
We're capable of understanding concepts that like being shared. But the thing is, like, there's not, if you're not taught like the jargon within the academia or not,
exactly,
you don't know what the hell's going on.
Yeah. The words are meaningless.
Yeah.
Right. And
there's a way to write those concepts so that everyday people, right? Like, can easily grasp them, because you're right. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the way people think, right? I mean, they just don't know the vocabulary, right?
Exactly.
And so how do we take it out of the vocabulary? How do we make it more consumable, by the masses? Yeah.
So speaking of high prices, I took a little trip through the NACS website.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And
Oh,
I was like,
yeah.
I was like, okay, so it would have cost me if I had become a member and then gotten the appropriate, badge to attend with that level of membership.
Yeah.
It's a considerable amount of money, and then you have to add in
If you got to get a hotel room,
hotels, travel,
That's travel.
food.
Yeah.
I mean, everything that you're going to do, and this is not,
But you're talking a couple thousand.
Yeah,
I got all sorts of things
easily.
about that. Yeah, this is really
easily.
Yeah.
And it's not limited to just, this particular conference.
Right.
Every conference that
Yeah.
I've gone to, it tends to be super expensive. But
This conference should be different.
that's
exactly.
what I was just about to say.
No, it should be. Yeah.
I talked about this because this is my first real one. I had one before as a vendor. Is a bit different, and it was the price for that was there was no Chicano indie presses there except for the one I used to be a part of, because they couldn't afford it. Even in California, where there were many, there was the Southern LA to San Francisco to sell some books. Of course, because this is academia. Of course, that's where you want to get your books. No one could afford that, for these small presses. But some people were telling me there's also optics. I forget who you want to look good for but for whom? We know for who, right?
Yeah.
You want to, so whenever they go back to the, not to, decry or insult a profession that want to invite me, but go back to you don't want to look bad in front of the white academics or the other academics that normally look down upon us. And what really gets me is that this is knowledge that is about our people, by our people, but at the same time is not for our people. It's not going back. The knowledge is not, and I see that on the slogan. I'm like, that's bullshit, because if I was living in Albuquerque, right, and I can just walk in, I can't just walk in. It would cost me hundreds of dollars.
There should be
a day rate.
Yeah,
exactly.
There should be a day rate.
Yeah.
And you get some let's be honest, how many local high school machistas would be able to go into this conference and just walk in and participate? How many just Chicanos off the streets, community members,
exactly,
right?
that need these studies. They need, really.
So I'll say, and I say this as a person who goes to NACS, not as a person who has sort of any special insight to things decisions people have made. I want to be really clear about that. Also, but in saying that, I want to say that I think that I'm right about this. Okay. Is that there's a group of people who controlled this conference for a very long time. And I feel like they were very desirous of building this into some sort of ultra professional, academic conference, blah, blah, blah. I think that's where you get the prices for the tables and stuff. It appears to me, as a person on the outside looking in, again, but I've been through these things before in my own life, so I feel like I can see what's going on. It appears to me that there was recently, within the last several years, an internal revolt inside of the leadership, quote unquote, of NACS, and that a number of these people have been retired from the organization. Mm-hmm. I will tell you that anecdotally, that this time we had a woman who is with the Partido Nacional de la Raza Unida. Her name is Andrea Martinez. She's the state rep for the party here.
Yeah, I met her last night.
Yeah. Nice lady, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. Is one of those people, and I'm not saying anything she wouldn't have said. She wouldn't say herself if she was here. Is one of those people that is not going to be able to afford to pay $1,500 to attend. I mean, shit, I can't even afford it. The only way I can afford it is because I get professional development money from the school. And so I use it to go to this one conference, right? But the people who are directing, they did give her a day rate. Because she just told them, she said, I can't afford that. And they were like, okay, $40 a day, right? Now, there's no rule about that, or I don't know if it's going to continue, but they did that for her. I can tell you that the people who ran that conference last year would have thrown her out on her ass.
Really?
Oh, yeah. And so I had all these t-shirts I wanted to sell, right? I had a shit ton of t-shirts, man. but I can't pay $1,200 for a table.
And that's what a table is.
That's what a table is $1,200, right?
God damn.
I know. Yeah. No, they ain't fucking around, right? And so, but I went to the lady who is running it right now. Her name is Jenny Cruz, and I said, "Look, I got these T-shirts. Partially fundraiser, blah blah blah." And there's all these empty tables along the hallway.
Yeah.
And I said, what if I give you a percentage of what I sell? Which I think is cool, right? Because they get some money and I get, some money. I mean, 90% of, we ended up.
And you're not
10%.
tied. You're not tied to, I must make this much in sales in order to even make back the money that I spent on this table.
If I had sold all the T-shirts that I brought, I probably would have made about $300 yesterday.
Yeah, but there's a dissonance.
If it was $1,200 table.
Yeah.
There's a dissonance of going into the amount that I had to pay, right? But going to panels about the social justice, gente, dignity, and all this, and then realizing that none of this stuff is for them, right? Ultimately, they can't afford it, right? We have blessings, right? We have danzante, all this kind of stuff, but like. But it's not for it. It's for entertain. For me, the entire thing seemed very classist. It's my first real one, right? Other than being a vendor, and even though I may be part of this classist whatever, like I still can see like people that are part of our community, they can't be there. Like there's just no way. And on top of that, they didn't invite a certain figure in the Chicano community that lives in Albuquerque. It had to be informed that it was going on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and this goes for all conferences. So I'm a member of the SAAs, right? The Society of American Archaeology. And the SAAs had our national conference in Albuquerque at one point. And there was a big talk given about protecting Chaco. And Deb Haaland came in, and she's going to be our next governor. And she came, very important woman. She came in and she gave this talk at the SAAs. And I was like, what a missed opportunity to invite the people from Albuquerque to come in and see what it is that we do, right? Because I'm a big proponent of community outreach and public engagement, because people aren't going to care about archaeology. They don't even know what archeology is. Half the people I meet still think that I dig up dinosaurs. Yeah. And so it's like the same thing. No. Well, I could. I mean, it's not outside of the realm of possibility.
No, I think that would be cool. But yeah.
But and so I see that with NACS as well. There's so many people that could benefit from being able to participate and realize, oh shit, I've got this history. I've got this part of me that's so important, but I can't afford to be a part.
Well, I realize that it's a challenge for organizers. I understand that, right? But at the same time, when I was thinking, at some point, I want to do a Chicanx futurism conference, right? But I don't want it to be something where it's like no one doesn't feel comfortable going, and not exactly like a con either. But it could be something like where things are discussed and presented, but which happens at cons. I'm not trying to be whatever, but because too often it's like, if no one could walk in and hear it, so what good is it, right?
Yeah.
And
it's also inward facing, right?
Yeah.
So it's like we're all just talking to each other.
Oh,
we all present to each other, and then we sit down, and then the next guy who gets it's going to be the same shit that we would have learned from each other if we had just gone out and had a beer.
Yeah, and they're bringing young folks in so they can keep it going. The same system going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, it's onanism, man. It's what it is, right? And so we're just like, so we're all here. I mean, I think, from my perspective, I feel like organizations like NACS, or what NACS could be, or I think what it could even turn into, are very important for all the reasons you guys just articulated, right? I mean, our community, we've been saying this for years. Our community's under attack. What do we do? Fight back, right? Guess what, guys? It's really time to fight back, right? Like it's not a slogan. It's not a chant. We are slated for deportation. We are slated for maybe not like physical extermination, but we are slated for cultural extermination, right? Like this is it. When they started picking up those Indian brothers and sisters here in New Mexico, I was like, oh, these white boys they're going for it. And I mean, I don't need to tell you all, this is only like the third month of this guy's presidency. I mean, we got a long ways to go, y'all. And so, you know, I think that what's important is that we need to really think about what it means to resist, right? And, you know, stop with all this like existence is resistance and all of that. Existence is cool, right? But it is not resistance. You can use your existence to resist, but you simply existing is not resistance. So, I mean, how do we build political power? How do we move the needle, not for like what white people are doing, right? Who fucking cares about the Democrats, man? What are we doing in our community to move the political needle, right? How do we return to, you know, again, the 1990s and looking at the example of organizations like the Zapatistas, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, sure, you don't hear a whole lot about them today, but they control a major section of Chiapas, like that whole area down there. They've built governments, they've built schools, they have their own system of representation. I mean, it's time for Chicanos, right? Chicanas, Chicanx, other people who of similar mindset, regardless of who they are, right? To think seriously about these examples and understand that there's a sacrifice that goes along with it, but that it is, I would say it's a necessary sacrifice, but I mean, honestly, at this point, I think it's an unavoidable sacrifice. I don't think there's any way to get out of it, right? Because I don't think these people who are in charge, I mean, that's not their plan. They don't want just a few of us to sprinkle in there like, you know, like the old white boys did, right? They don't want us at all.
Yeah, they want us gone.
They want us gone, Jack. That means you.
Yeah. Oh, real quick, I found the article I was talking about, and I'll link to it in the show notes. It's from the Real News Network. It is called New Rumblings in Aztlán, which is a great title because it's a takeoff.
The Hunter S. Thompson.
Hunter S. Thompson's Strange Rumblings in Aztlán.
Yeah.
And it asked the question, has Trump's mass deportation sparked a Chicano power resurgence? And it's written by Sean Beckner Carmichael. And it came out March 14th, 2025. I'll link to it in the show notes. It's a really cool article because it articulates a lot of what I've been thinking about. In terms of just with the podcast too, because Ruben and I have been talking about this. Like this season is going to be a little bit different. We're going to still do the pseudo-history, pseudo-archaeology, debunking stuff, and teaching people about the history. But we also want to draw from the Chicano movement a little bit more and start talking about methods of resistance, ways of resistance, drawing from the Chicano movement and Chicanismo. So this article came out at an appropriate time, I think.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is basically what what the, so-called left, the Democrats, whatever, like they built up complacency, right? And so, but when it's actually, they were hiding what they're doing because they deported just as many. They built walls. They've done all sorts of the same kind of thing. But, now that it's a little more apparent, the mask off, all that kind of thing, they're falling back to like the values that are actually resistive, that were actually give us our humanity back.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, thank you guys.
Oh, this was fun. Absolutely.
For joining me. We're keeping it short and sweet this episode.
I got to give a shout out.
Yeah, go for it.
Shout out to the Reality Dysfunction podcast. Check us out on all of the places where you find podcasts at.
Yes. So that was going to be my next question.
Oh. Sorry.
If you have any, are you on social media also? Is there a way that people could find you other than the podcast?
Yeah. I mean, I'm still on Facebook because I'm like 100 years old, and I got to stay with my Gen X people because they're the only ones I can really joke with. Yeah. Because everybody else starts crying. And then, I'm on Instagram too. Ernesto Morales 789.
And I'm a bit younger, so I'm on Instagram. Scott Russell Duncan Fernandez on Instagram.
Yeah.
And I already plugged the workshop. What else can I plug?
I know.
Plug my book, the workshop. Yeah. Oh, Chicanics Futurism Anthology is going to probably be out through Ryder Rose's Press. Probably in a few months, probably August or something like that.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Well, we'll push it on the show for sure.
Appreciate it.
Well, thank you guys for coming on. I really appreciate it. And have a safe drive home.
Thanks,
You guys drove out here, right?
Yeah,
absolutely. And remember, folks, the truth, well, it's like medicine. It doesn't always taste good, but it is always good for you. Timoitase.
Yo soy chicano, tengo color, puro chicano, hermano con honor. Cuando me dicen que hay revolución, defiendo a mi raza con mucho valor. Tengo todita mi gente para la revolución. Voy a luchar con los pobres para que se acabe el dolor. Yo soy chicano, tengo color, puro chicano, hermano con honor. Cuando me dicen que hay revolución, defiendo a mi raza con mucho valor. Tengo mi par de pistolas para la revolución. Una es una 30 y 30 y otra es una 32. Yo soy chicano, tengo color, puro chicano, hermano con honor. Cuando me dicen que hay revolución, defiendo a mi raza con mucho valor. Tengo mi par de caballos para la revolución. Uno se llama el canario y otro se llama el gorrión. Yo soy chicano, tengo color, puro chicano, hermano con honor. Cuando me dicen que hay revolución, defiendo a mi raza con mucho valor. Tengo mi orgullo y machismo, mi cultura y corazón. Tengo mi fe y diferencia y lucho con gran razón. Yo soy chicano, tengo color, puro chicano, hermano con honor. Cuando me dicen que hay revolución, defiendo a mi raza con mucho valor. Tengo todita mi gente para la revolución. Voy a luchar con los pobres para que se acabe el dolor. Tengo mi orgullo, tengo mi fe. Soy diferente, soy color café. Tengo cultura, tengo corazón y no me lo quita a mí ningún cabrón.
In 2018, a New Mexico court confirmed what our communities have long known. The state was violating students' constitutional rights by failing to provide a sufficient and equitable education. The Yazzie Martinez ruling made it undeniably clear. New Mexico must take bold, systemic action to support low-income students, English learners, Native American students, and students with disabilities. Yet, years later, this mandate still has not been met. The New Mexico Center on Law and Poverty, Transform Education New Mexico, and the Tribal Education Alliance continue to work in partnership with our communities, united in our call for a comprehensive, statewide plan to fulfill the promise of the Yazzie Martinez ruling. This month, we're excited to invite you to stand with us in another defining moment for education equity in New Mexico. Join us at our community gathering and court watch party. Yazzie Martinez returns to court. What's next for New Mexico schools? This event will be Tuesday, April 29th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Mountain Time. It'll be held at Warehouse 505, located at 202 Central Avenue Southeast in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Gather in solidarity as the court considers whether to require a remedial action plan led by the Legislative Education Study Committee. We'll watch the hearing together, reflect, and close with a press conference calling for bold action. Breakfast, lunch, and refreshments will be provided at this family-friendly community event. To RSVP, just follow the link in the show notes. Now, back to the show.